Since the commencement of this conference, a lot of issues have been discussed, analyzed, and probably the list of issues flagged already is all comprehensive. The problem, to my mind, is one of drawing these strategies for the future and an action program. In this context, from some of the sessions, the discussion appeared to divide the issues into two broad contexts. One is macro, the other is model-based or modular. And one of the interesting questions that was raised in the session on learning from evaluations is whether these two are contradictory. I would say that it is not a question of contradiction. It is a question of integration, and that is a mighty difficult task. The second point in this context that I would like to stress on is the modular approach is country specific, and maybe in the context of a region there may be some commonalities, but there will be differences also, and therefore there is need for utmost caution in trying to transplant the model from one country to the other. The specific differences have to be taken into the consideration. This is exactly what the recently published Event Development Report 2010 has talked about. It has cautioned against the idea of transplanting models from other countries. And here the question is one of adaptation, and that has to be very carefully done. Now, I'll take this model approach further and would refer to the Helen Keller model of homestead vegetable gardening. They are working in Bangladesh, and they claim that it has been a success. And there is also the USAID-funded program of IUIC, Infant and Young Child Nutrition Program. Here, the point that I would like to clarify, linking these perspectives to Bangladesh context, is the fact that Bangladesh has been doing it long before, about 25 years before. And Ministry of Agriculture had specific programs on that. And in this context again, the issue of sustainability comes up. It has been the experience commonly found in Bangladesh that the model relies on utilizing NGOs for community participation, which is good. But the other side of the coin is that as soon as the funding stops, after the time-bound frame of the project is over, all activities stop. Where then is the sustainability? This issue is very critical in our context, and answers must be found. Can there be any alternative? And we have heard also in different sessions the value of community participation in the context of some African countries and also in the context of India. Bangladesh offers an opportunity as well as a challenge for community participation using the grassroots level farmers' organizations. We have been implementing, when we are still doing it, what they call IPM, Integrated Pest Management. Initially, around this concept, we established through the Extension Department these IPM clubs. Now these are called Integrated Crop Management Clubs. They are farmers' groups, and many such groups are very eager to expand their activities into non-farm sector, such as marketing of agricultural input as well as output. This offers, I repeat, an opportunity to use these groups so that the issue of sustainability of actions for the future does not pose a threat. In the modular approach that have been discussed and analyzed here in this conference, referred to the school feeding programs. And there the country-specific examples showed that while some countries have the financial capacity to make it all comprehensive, in the sense that no one is excluded, there is no rich-poor divide considerations are just not important. In other countries, that may lead to drawing a line because of limitations of financial capacity. In Bangladesh also this school feeding program was introduced, but I hear it has been abandoned now. And along with it there is also the Food for Education program. It was mainly with the objective of encouraging the poor children to attend school, because under normal circumstances they go out with their parents in the field to help them in managing the field crop. This has also been stopped. Can these two programs be again linked with greater stress on nutritional aspects? That is one area that could be explored. Then the conference has underlined the importance of leveraging agriculture, health and nutrition. Here also this morning session, that this would be the last, led to flagging the issue of institutional arrangements, which is very important, at the level of the government at the top and also at the bottom. At the top, these functions are divided across ministries. So the issue of coordination is very important. And that is a problem that has to be solved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I now call upon Mr. Chandrasekhar to take the podium, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, distinguished delegates here. I'm truly delighted to be here this afternoon. The last 2 or 2.5 days, we've heard a number of speakers, probably a little over 100, graphically describe the problems. I'm not going to talk about problems because problems are known. I'm going to talk about solutions. I'm going to recommend a few solutions as far as India is concerned. My solutions or my recommendations will be in 3 parts, Mr. Chairman. First, we'll talk about agriculture resurgence. One of the serious downside risks to Indian economy is posed by agriculture, in my opinion. While the manufacturing sector and the services sector both are growing at close to double digit year after year, agriculture growth rates in the last 10 years and a little more probably 12 years, annual average growth rate has been about 2.4%. This is just not done. This is exactly the reason why there is pervasive poverty in the rural areas and pervasive malnutrition and undernutrition in the rural areas. We need to seriously apply ourselves towards a resurgence in Indian agriculture. What do we need to do for a resurgence in Indian agriculture? I have a 6-point plan. I can actually elaborate on each one of these plans and speak for 20 minutes, but obviously this is not the time, but I'm only going to make those points, those 6 points. One is we need to strengthen the input delivery system. Seeds, fertilizers, agrochemicals, there is no monitoring of quality, no monitoring of prices. These markets are very, very open and liberal, and this is one of the serious problems which farmers are facing. We need strong regulatory oversight for the input market, and we need to strengthen the input delivery system so that the farmer gets the right kind of inputs at the right price. The second question is irrigation. We have known any number of experiments and research has conclusively proved that availability of water improves yields by 25 to 30%. Our 160 million hectares of land that is cultivated, only 40% is irrigated, 60% is rain-fed. We need to invest extraordinary amounts, huge amounts on quickly expanding irrigation. Indeed, in the last 15 years, we have invested heavily in irrigation, but I don't find that investment getting translated into actual acreage under major field crops. There are last mile connectivity problems. We need to address those problems, which means very simply there is a lot of work for the policy makers. Third one is we need to improve the antiquated agronomic practices through revival of the extension mechanism. We used to have wonderful extension system until 7 or 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, whichever village I go to, I check with the farmer, they said he hasn't seen an extension worker for ages, 5 or 6 years probably. I think that's something which needs to be done very, very importantly. And we also we need to infuse agriculture with technology, both pre-harvest and post-harvest technologies, which would also mean we should seriously look at using technology seeds. And use of technology seeds in cotton is an example which all of us are aware of. Next, investment in rural infrastructure. Pathetic conditions of rural infrastructure as far as India is concerned. Huge investments are required. Unless public investment in agriculture and in rural infrastructure is stepped up, there will be no incentive or no motivation for the private sector to invest in infrastructure. Therefore, I would strongly urge that we need to step up public investment in infrastructure, particularly rural infrastructure that would facilitate farmers to move, store, and market their produce, grade, sort, and clean, etc., and so that they are able to get a better price. The last one is use of information technology to deliver price and market information to farmers. We have about 700 million mobile phones working in India. Almost every farmer has a mobile phone. It should not be difficult for us to deliver price and market information to farmers so that every farmer is actually a savvy trader. But we just have not built that trading capacity in him to take trading calls and trading positions. If we enable the farmer with information, build capacity in him with market and price information, I'm sure he knows when to sell, where to sell, and to whom to sell. So these are this is the 6-point plan or mantra that I have for agriculture resurgence. We then come to nutrition. There's a serious skew in food consumption in India between the top 25% of the population and the bottom 40% of the population, huge skew. We are world's largest producers of milk, second largest producers of rice and wheat and sugar, fruits and vegetables, etc. But when you look at the consumption pattern, there's a huge skew, and I think that skew is something which needs to be narrowed by lifting consumption of the bottom 40% of the population. One of the ways in which it can be done is through the public distribution system. We have a fairly well-tested public distribution system which services a very large number of people. But unfortunately, our PDS focuses only on rice, wheat, and sugar. There's a serious calorie deficiency in the country, serious protein deficiency in the country. I have written any number of articles and spoken and made comments, and I would actually use this forum to again urge that we need to include, in addition to rice, wheat, and sugar, edible oils and pulses under the public distribution system so that poor consumers get calories through edible oil and protein through pulses. I think this is something which is extremely important under the Indian context, in my opinion. Similarly, high food prices, high food inflation actually dilutes the consumption of nutritious food for the poor people. Poor people already spending more than 50% of their monthly family budget on food cannot afford food inflation. So there is simply no escape from subsidizing food for the poor. Third is financialization of the food market. I think increasingly we are following Western models of marketizing agriculture and financializing the agriculture products. That's something which this country cannot afford. We are still not a matured economy. We still have to go some way in becoming self-sufficient in food. And once when you financialize your agriculture commodity markets, particularly of those commodities which are so essential and are in short supply, you're going to create artificial demand through speculative forces and raise prices up. And it's going to hurt poor people. Therefore, I would actually urge that we need to lessen the financialization of primary agriculture commodity markets. And the last one is on coarse grains, coarse cereals. Obviously, I think the word coarse cereals is inappropriate, probably politically inappropriate. Maize and other millets, etc., jowar, bajra, sorghum. I think we need to make these fashionable. These are highly nutritious foods, but people tend to believe it's rice and wheat which is fashionable. I think we need to make consumption of millets and coarse grains and coarse cereals more fashionable. So the last point is on, there's a constitution angle to the whole issue. What is this constitution angle? Under the Indian constitution, there are 3 lists called the central list, the state list, and the concurrent list. Agriculture and education are 2 items actually in the state list. States will have to legislate on agriculture. States will have to legislate on agriculture markets and agriculture marketing. And also states will have to legislate on health. Health, education, and agriculture are in the state list. And central government has much less to do with these 3. Across India, different states give different levels of importance to agriculture, to health, and to education. I think this is causing a serious problem. Our paper, we have commented on a number of occasions that we need to take agriculture and health and education in the concurrent list where both states and the center can legislate. I think this is a time I believe has come for us to seriously look at an amendment to the Constitution to make health, education and agriculture in the concurrent list so that it becomes a responsibility and the duty of the federal government, of the central government to ensure that these policies are very strongly, firmly and transparently implemented. The final point I simply want to say that, yes sir, yeah. All of us know the problems. In India, I think most of us believe we also know the solutions. There's simply no political will. We need to put the scientists and businesses and everybody else, researchers have to put pressure on the government to demonstrate political will to change. And there are no simple one-step solutions. We need to move. Every country in Asia will have to move in several different directions simultaneously to address the issue of health and nutrition by leveraging agriculture. Thank you very much, sir.